Hi guys, I am Kelly Hernandez. I am going to show you the third Cinderella book I picked out for this week's discussion. Um, this one is called The Turkey Girl, a Zuni Cinderella Story. It is retold by Penny Pollock and illustrated by Ed Young. This one I'm going to do a little differently than I did my first two. I am actually going to read the entire story instead of paraphrasing. I'm going to read the entire story and then kind of break it down page by page, only because I think this one is incredibly interesting. And I would just like to share the entire story as opposed to trying to, like I said, trying to paraphrase it. I just think it was the most interesting out of the three that I read. So, um, there's an author's note at the beginning, but I'm gonna skip over that. So, um, okay. In the days of the ancients, a young girl lived alone in the shadow of Thunder Mountain. Her small mud-walled hut nestled against the edge of the Pueblo village, Mitsaki. The other houses rose above hers, piled atop one another, with ladders to reach their roof doors. The young girl was so poor she herded turkeys for a living. The turkeys belonged to the wealthy families of Mitsaki. They valued the black and white tail feathers of the huge birds for decorating prayer sticks and ceremonial masks. The wealthy families cared little for the orphaned herder, calling her the turkey girl and paying her with corn and cast-off clothes. So, on this first page, um, we have kind of the setting, which it says in the days of the ancients, and it kind of tells us where it is, in the shadow of Thunder Mountain. Um, but you can clearly see by the illustrations we're set in the desert, and it has the Pueblo village there, and you can see the turkeys and the girl, presumably. Um, One thing I noticed about this is the simplicity of the illustrations. It's all very muted. Um, and the details are not very distinct. It's very, um, like I said, very muted. It's not particularly detailed. Um, so, but you can tell, like I said, it's in the desert. It has a lot of has a lot of yellows and oranges, and not a lot of green or blue in that one. Each dawn, as Sunfather began his long journey across the sky, the turkey girl, clad in her tattered dress, threadbare shawl, and yucca cactus sandals, led the turkeys from Mitsaki. Ducking her head to avoid the wind-blown desert dust, she walked across dry arroyo, through the canyon of cottonwoods, and up the cliff of Thunder Mountain to graze the turkeys on the flat-topped mesa. Every evening, as Sunfather returned to his resting place, the turkey girl led her beloved turkeys back to their stockade of cedar sticks. "Good night, my friends," she would say as she latched the gate. The turkeys, although used to her talk, never replied. So this one you can kind of see more of the village. Um, Again, you definitely get that feeling of being in the desert, even with the purples and the yellows. It doesn't seem like a particularly cheery place. Definitely doesn't feel like she has any sense of like royalty or anything. Um, but one thing I wanted to kind of touch on is the fact, some of the differences between our Cinderella story, like our classic that we're used to, and this story. Um, and like the Cinderella story that we're used to, of course, there's um, the main character, Cinderella herself, is usually a daughter of a father who's really kind, and the mother passes away, and sometimes even the father passes away, and then she has this wicked stepmother and evil stepsisters. Well, in this particular story, we have none of that. We just have this girl. There's never mention of any parents. There's no stepsister, stepmother, any of that stuff. The closest thing we have to that is back on the first page, where they mentioned the wealthy families that owned the turkeys. So really she's just kind of all on her own in this version of the story. The young girl faithfully tended her gabbling friends, watching over them through the hot summer and into fall, when she gathered piñon nuts from the wind-twisted pines. One evening, after she said good night to the turkeys, the young girl carried her chipped water jug to the spring. Other girls gossiped there. The turkey girl knew they would not talk with her. They thought her fit company only for turkeys. She held her head high as if she did not mind. She was balancing her filled jug on her head when the herald priest appeared on one side of the flat housetops. Everyone grew quiet. "Hear me, children of Sun Father and Earth Mother. In 4 days' time, before the harvest moon, the dance of the sacred bird will be held in Hawaka. It is fitting that you attend." Murmurs of plans for the festival rippled through the crowd near the spring. And one thing I did think was interesting is on this page, even though it looks more bluish, I think, on my camera, this entire page is done in a greenish tint, and it just happens to be on the same page where they're talking about the girls gossiping, gathering at the spring, and then gossiping, and then them not talking about her, or not talking with her, but saying that she was only fit for hanging out with the turkeys. But we have that green color that we've talked about before, being associated with envy. And again, you have more of those muted pictures, not a lot of detail. You never really do see a lot of the turkey girl's face or anything. It's basically just kind of a shadowy figure. The turkey girl caught the excitement, imagining herself dancing with the others. Rich odors of the feast would rise from the fires. A pulsing beat would fill the air. Dancers in bright colors would circle together. Water from her jug sloshed onto her tattered shawl, ending her daydream. She had no place at the dance. She was just the turkey girl clad in rags. But she could not stop dreaming of attending the dance. She spoke of little else. The turkeys were her only listeners, but they listened well, for she had always been loyal to them. On the day of the dance, the villagers left in the crisp dawn for Hawaka. The turkey girl and her turkeys left for the plains below Thunder Mountain. Tears streaked the dust on her cheeks. And here, this is probably the best picture we get of the turkey girl, where she's sad. And it's kind of fitting with her being sad. She's all dressed in blue, which is a color often associated with being sad. So we've got her all dressed in blue, and then she's got her turkeys up there. As she stumbled along, a commotion among her flock drew her attention. She had no sooner turned than a huge gobbler stepped forward, stretched out his proud neck, and said, "Maiden Mother, do not water the desert with your tears. You shall go to the dance." The young girl sank to the ground and gasped, "How is it that you speak my tongue, old one?" "We belong to an ancient race, Maiden Mother, and have many secrets our tall brothers do not know." The turkey girl's smile brought beauty to her smudged face. "I should have understood as much," she said. "I thank you for your generous thoughts, but I cannot go to the dance. The only clothes I own are the rags you see before you." "If you will follow us, we will tend to your clothes," replied the old gobbler, turning back toward Mitsaki. So you see there, and there's the proud old turkeys she's talking to, and the turkey girl. And I noticed with this page, there's a lot of purple in the background. Excuse me. And they actually don't talk, I mean, it says they belong to an ancient race, and it doesn't specifically say it's royalty, but I kind of get the feeling with the purple in the background that maybe it's like a royal bloodline that they belong to. You kind of get that vibe from the way they speak and in the way they act, that they're like royal ancestors. Willingly the young girl followed them straight into their pen. "Welcome to our home," said the old turkey. Without a further word he directed the other birds to encircle the turkey girl. Breaking into song with their heads high and their wings fluttering, they danced around the young maiden, dusting her with the soft tips of their wings. Dirt and twigs fell from her black hair, which began to shine like a starlit night. Brighter still glowed her dark eyes. Satisfied with her cleanliness, the turkeys again encircled the turkey girl. With their heads turned away, they fanned out their beautiful tails and entwined their wings to give her a small room in which to undress. "Lay your clothes on the ground," said the big gobbler. The turkey girl spread her tattered dress and ragged shawl on the ground next to her yucca sandals. Swaying up and down, the turkeys treaded and tapped new life into her old clothes. They sang while they worked. Their song, a low hum, was accented with the click-clack, clack-clack of their beaks. So on this page, you can basically just see like the shadows of the turkeys surrounding the girl. So you see the turkeys at work. Soon the turkey girl stood in a white, doe-skin dress belted with red and yellow cloth. Rare shells dangled from its hem. Colored twine and beads threaded her soft white moccasins. Black and white turkey feathers edged her dark mantle. As she gazed in wonder at her clothes, the gobbler spoke once more. "You must have jewels to wear to the dance." The turkey girl smiled and replied, "How could that be possible, old one?" The gobbler tossed his head in a superior way. "Have you not noticed the carelessness of our tall brothers?" he asked. "We have collected their dropped treasures for many moons and stored them in our gullets. Now stand still, for the time of the dance is near." So to kind of go back and touch back on some of the differences because there's been quite a few. Like I said, starting from where we left off, I think the last differences we talked about were the fact that it doesn't focus at all on Cinderella, as Cinderella doesn't have the stepmother and the stepsisters in this one. They do have the other girls in town who kind of gossip about her and say that she's only fit to hang out with the turkeys, so that's a little bit similar. I guess you could almost use the girls in that gossip and call her Turkey Girl to be kind of like the evil stepsisters in a way. The turkeys, I would say, that our magic can kind of come along to fix her clothes would be representative of like the fairy godmother coming in our classic Cinderella tale and providing that magic and providing a gown and a pumpkin coach and all that stuff for our classic Cinderella. So there's some differences. The turkey girl stood as still as the red and yellow plains beneath Thunder Mountain. The turkeys flew above her head, circling slowly, gurgling softly, as they coughed up treasures. Suddenly they flew faster, and down rained turquoise necklaces and earrings of delicate beauty. Bracelets of silver tumbled after them. "Now you may go to the dance," said the gobbler in approval. The other turkeys nodded their agreement. My friends," stammered the girl. "How can I thank you?" So here you can see the birds flying around and dropping the jewels down to her. So on this occasion, she has, instead of like a new white dress and glass slippers, she has kind of fixed up clothes from the turkeys, and she has jewels that they've collected that men have dropped along the way over time that they've collected. So, "We ask no thanks," replied the gobbler. "You have given us much. We wish to repay our kindness, or wish to repay your kindness. All that we ask is that you not forget us, for if you do, we will understand that you are mean of spirit and deserve the hard life that is yours." "Forget you," answered the girl, looking down to finger her silver bracelets. "I could not. You will prove that by returning to us before the Sun Father returns to his sacred place." "I will do as you ask," replied the turkey girl. She shifted her fine mantle from shoulder to shoulder, admiring its richness. So basically what we have here is the turkeys have said they're giving her a chance to go to this dance, but they're telling her she has to be back by the time the sun goes down. So in that way, it's like our Cinderella that we're used to, where she has to be home by midnight, or everything's going to go back to the way it was. But she has to be home by when the sun comes down. And I thought her clothes were really interesting here because she has these bright red colors on, which really kind of show, like, I thought, like, power and richness and just that, like, bright boldness. "And while you are gone, the latch of our cage will remain unlocked," added the gobbler. "And why do you wish that, old father?" The turkey girl wriggled her feet, anxious to leave for the dance. "If you break your word, we shall seek our freedom. If you return in this day's sunlight, all shall be as before." The girl hastily agreed to his request, and ran down the river path that led to Hawaka. When she saw her reflection in the water, her excitement grew. Her beauty matched that of the desert in bloom. Now everyone would see that she was fit company for more than turkeys. I love this picture. I don't know why I love this one so much. I just have to show this again. I just love this vision of this tiny person down here at the base of what I assume to be Thunder Mountain. It doesn't actually explicitly say that, but just based on the story, I like to assume that. I just love that one. When the turkey girl reaches Hawaka, she raced through the long covered way that led to the plaza. People were already dancing in a circle around the musicians and the altar. The throb of drums pulsing in the heart of the plaza was accented with a jangling, clacking sound. Peering from behind the crowd, she saw that the sound came from the turtle shell rattles encircling the arms and legs of the dancing braves. The sound of the rattles reminded her of the turkey's song. Gathering courage from this memory, she stepped forward. The musicians, setting the rhythm with their flutes, drums, and notched sticks, missed a beat when they saw her. Her beauty was so great, everyone stopped to stare. Who was this stranger? Where had she come from? The musicians began again, and so did the dancers, although they still turned to watch the turkey girl. With a smile as shining as her long hair, she joined the dance. And this is where I think the pictures start to get really interesting, because as you'll notice, instead of following along with the story where she's at the dance, you'll see we still have the turkeys, but they're kind of faded as it talks about her enjoying the dance. But there's kind of light between them, so you kind of get that brightness, that joy, that feeling of a party, of excitement, happiness going on. So I thought that picture was interesting. And then where it goes from there is really interesting. Braves wearing feathered masks pressed close to dance near her. The music thrummed with power. The dancers echoed the beat with their pounding feet. Sun-colored dust floated from the hard-packed earth. Round and round the dancers flowed like a sinuous snake as Sunfather, high above the plaza, looked down. The turkey girl danced every dance, her heart beating in time with her stomping feet. At last she was among the proud maidens and handsome braves. But she did not forget her turkeys. As the sun rays slanted gold across the plaza, she said to herself, "When the music quiets, I will run to my turkey friends." No sooner had the music died than it sprang back to life. The turkey girl danced on. And then, I don't know if it's just my imagination, or if you can kind of see the silhouette of the turkey in the dust and the clouds. I thought I could. So I thought it was kind of symbolic of the turkeys becoming even more faded in the distance. At least it seemed that way to me. So I took it as meaning kind of like she was slowly forgetting them even more and more. That's kind of what I took it to mean as I was reading it. Fingers of darkness reached across the plaza. "I will leave this minute," the young girl told herself. But then a brave brushed against her, and she began to wonder how it was that she should leave the festival for mere turkeys. Were they not just gabbling birds? In time, Sunfather's afterglow softened the earth. Shadows of evening chilled the turkey girl. Her steps slowed as she remembered the turkey's kindness to her and her promise to them. She broke from the ring of dancers, ran across the plaza, under the covered way, and down the river path to the turkey pen. And then, again, could be what I'm just trying to find in the pictures. But I just thought you could see, again, kind of the shadows left behind by the turkeys. It stood empty, its gate creaking in loneliness. "My friends!" cried the turkey girl, running through the purple of nightfall to the top of Thunder Mountain. "Wait, I am here!" The turkeys had waited until Sunfather fell asleep behind the mountain. Then, seeing that she had broken her trust with them, they had left Mitsaki and their maiden mother, never to return. Great was her sorrow at their silence. Greater still was her sorrow when she saw by moonlight that her fine dress had become rags, her shawl tatters, and her sandals worn yucca fibers. Then she understood that she had lost her turkey friends forever. So here you see the turkey pen, where her turkey friends all ran away because she didn't make it back before sunset. From that day unto this, the turkeys have lived apart from their tall brothers, for the turkey girl kept not her word. Thus shortens my story. And then at the end you have the turkeys by themselves under the moonlight. So I thought this one was so interesting because when you think about the proverbial Cinderella story, you automatically think of the happily ever after that you usually experience with the Cinderella story. It's always the kind of rags to riches, happily ever after. Cinderella gets everything, that sort of happy-go-lucky story. And this one, of course, was quite different at the end. The turkey girl, well, to begin with, the story veered off in a couple of ways. There wasn't a specific prince involved. It talked about a few different braves that she danced with, but not like a specific one at the dance. And then not only was she not talking to a specific prince, but it was basically kind of like a one evening out dance type of thing. But then on top of that, she loses her turkey friends at the end, so she's left with absolutely nothing. So, like I said, it's just a far cry from your traditional Cinderella story. So, I just thought that one was fascinating. That's why I wanted to read the whole thing instead of trying to paraphrase it, because it's just so completely different from what I'm used to. So, anyway, I definitely want to add that one to my list because I just think that's a fascinating story. So, I hope you guys liked it just for something different. It's um, definitely different from what we're used to. So, um, you guys should check it out and maybe consider adding it to your list. Thank you guys so much for listening.